Welcome to this next video. So we've now talked a fair bit around users. We've talked about OUs. Let's now talk about computers. We're going to focus on two things. We're going to focus on computers and servers and potentially a little bit around domain controllers. Essentially, a computer could be an end user computer. So a computer user, they could be on a desktop, on a laptop. And then you've got a server, which is something a little bit more infrastructure, wise. So it's a server, it's still a computer. And then you've got a domain controller, which is still a computer to an extent, or as at least known within here. Now, of course, if you want to have a user to be able to log in to a computer using their AD credentials, so they've already got an account. John Smith is a user within AD. John Smith can go to a computer, to his computer, and log in with John Smith. But you can only use that computer to log in with AD credentials if that computer is connected or bound to Active Directory. Future video, we are going to talk about how to bind a computer to AD. I generally recommend going in and creating a computer account in Active Directory first, and then later on going and binding a specific computer to Active Directory. Now, the computer needs to exist in Active Directory for that computer to be able to be logged in with Active Directory credentials. If the computer is not bound to AD, you're going to have a trouble time logging in. And that's also true of servers. If you want to log into a server with AD credentials, that server needs to be bound to AD, tied to a computer account that you define and set up within Active Directory. Now, of course, we had some OUs. We've got an Australia OU. We've got a USA's OU. You've also got a computers OU right here. This is in the root level. So let's just actually minimize this and this. You've got computers and you've got domain controllers right in here as well. Domain controllers, you'll see that the type is computer, all right? The type itself is computer regardless of whether if it's a server or a computer, a desktop or a laptop. And this is the name of my server. So this server is called Win Server DC01, called computer. Now, because I like to make things a little bit easier to manage, we talked about that we're going to have a company called homedemo.com under a USA and an Australia site. USA has some servers and has some computers. Australia does not have any servers. Australia communicates with servers that are in the US over the network, but they do have some computers. So let's say we're in Australia, okay? We're going to create a new computer account. We're going to right click right here, select new computer, all right? So what do we want this computer name to be? Now, we're not going to talk too much about this, but the first thing that you should even do is what is the naming convention of computers and servers on a network? What is the name of a computer? Is it just called computer 1, computer 2, computer 3? Is the computer called the name of the person? John Smith's computer. I don't recommend that sort of stuff because then John Smith leaves. You have to go and rename the computer, rename it in AD, and you just get into a big mess. What I recommend is use elements of some sort of an asset number, whether that be the serial number. Perhaps if you're working with a finance team, they have asset numbers that they allocate against computers so that they know, perhaps the date of the computer or the number of the computer when it was purchased, whatever it may be. Have some sort of a number in your name along with a actual word of some sort. So let's give you an example of a computer name. The computer name could be your organization's name. So in our case, it's called Home Demo. So let's just say we're going to call this HD, right? So that we know straight away that this computer is HD. It's a home demo computer. It's part of that organization. Dash 0001. Okay, that could be the name of my computer. So on that computer, there could be a sticker stuck on it that says HD0001. And okay, that's it. Computer's now created. Right click, let's just go and create another computer. HD0002. And okay. Now, this is nice and all if you've only got a few computers. What if you've got a lot more? What if you've got hundreds of desktops, laptops, servers? You've got Mac computers. you're not going to call a server 001 and then a desktop 002 and then a laptop 003. Why not have a different naming convention that could sort of mimic that? So what I like to do is I'll say HD-L for laptop-001. So now I know that that is a laptop, right? Or you could, depending on, again, the size of the company, you could go HD-L-F for finance-001. This is the first computer in finance, which is a laptop, right? Perhaps I've got a desktop. We're going to call it HD-D for desktop-IT, because it's an IT computer 001. That's a bit too long. There you go. Oops, I'm creating a user. That's what's happened. I was wondering what was going on there. Computer. HD-D-IT-01. Okay, so these are naming conventions. Of course, I can now go into this computer, go into the properties, right-click on properties, and I can now add some further information around the description. This is John Smith's computer. Of course, this is nice because that way you can easily know that this computer is John Smith's. But of course, when staff members come and go, you'll have to go into here and update that. All right. You've got other stuff such as disabling, resetting. Operating system at the moment is blank. We'll talk about that in a future video because once you've bound the computer to Active Directory, all of this will be automatically populated and you'll be able to see this information. Member of is what sort of, what accounts can use this particular account. So you can tie a specific user account to a computer account. All right. But so we talked about naming convention. So come up with a good naming convention, and that's how you create a computer. Of course, if you've got a server, you can create all your servers and computers within the same computers OU. But in my case, I like to have its own server OU and perhaps give it a different naming convention. So I'm going to say new computer again. I'm also going to call it HD. But now I want to have a little bit more information because it's a server, right? So I'm going to now call it a file server. Right, and this is my file server 01. And that's, so now I know that this is HD is the company, and this is my file server 01. All right, I can create another one. I could call it HD, and I could call it DB, so database server 01. All right, if you want to get even more fancy and you want to have even more breakdown, you could do HD-STG, maybe it's a staging server -file server -01. All right, or you could say new computer HD-PRD. It's a production server -FS-01. So now I've got a production file server and a staging file server. You can have a development file server. So that's you generally would follow a different naming convention for servers as you would computers, but still trying to keep at least some sort of basic structure so that you know what is what. Now, of course, I recommend creating computer accounts in here first before we then go and bind computers to AD, getting them to talk to these particular computers that we've just defined within here.